Alright guys, how's everybody going? So, let me talk about the possible, potential, probably likely Great Depression that we could be looking at here in the very near future. Now, this Great Depression that we're going into, or could possibly be going into, might be worse than the original Great Depression in the 20s and 30s. However, it might also be better in different ways than the one that we originally went to in the 20s and 30s. And that is because of the internet, social media, things like that. We are in the age of information, technology. We have the ability to go online and take a look at the past, and we have the ability to learn from the past. We have the ability to look at the original Great Depression that we were in the 20s and 30s, see how it started, and then see how people lived through it and what they did. Now, guys, I live in Texas, near New Mexico, and I'm on a few New Mexico pages on Facebook, like Abandoned Places. And one thing that I saw, it might have been a couple months ago, maybe longer, but the thing that we're going into, this possible Great Depression that we might be going into, reminded me of a post that I saw on this page. And that was, somebody had posted a photo of an old cabin. It was falling apart, falling down, obviously abandoned, because it was on that page. However, the whole thing behind this photo was, it was their family's cabin during the Great Depression. Apparently they had moved, or they had lost their home or something like that. And I guess they had stopped in the New Mexico desert and built a cabin. And that's where they had lived for, since the 20s and 30s. So, guys, this is a possibility that we could be seeing, is people, either getting evicted or losing their home or becoming homeless. Because, guys, that's going to happen pretty soon, especially if Biden locks down the country for 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, we could definitely be seeing some people losing homes and becoming homeless. So, guys, we could be seeing people leaving places, going to the wilderness, and making their own home. That's a possibility. Another thing that we learned from the Great Depression in the 20s and 30s is that a lot of people, were out of work. That a lot of people lost their jobs and things like that. And we're starting to see that right now. Especially if we see more lockdowns, it's going to become even worse with the job losses. So, guys, one of the things that we can do right now, or not one of the things, there's a lot of things that we can do right now while we're still in a pretty decent time. The country's still open somewhat. We can still go out and get preps. So going out and getting preps is definitely extremely important, that you should be doing right now. But you should also be learning different skills while you can. And some of those skills are things like learning how to can your own food. People canned their own food during the Great Depression a lot, and they continue to can after that. A lot of people don't can their own food nowadays because it's not a necessity. We can go to the supermarket and get our own canned foods because of the food supply chain and how it's set up now. So learning how to can your own food is going to be an important skill to learn that people should definitely learn. Another skill that people should be learning right now is hunting, gathering, growing, and fishing for food. Now, guys, there's different ways that you can go hunting. Obviously, you can build a deer stand, build a blind, set out some corn, and do it that way. Or you can do tracking and things like that. There's trapping. If you don't know how to trap, learning how to trap an animal could be a useful skill. Not could be, it's going to be a useful skill. Gathering food, you should definitely be learning the plants in your area. See what is edible, see what's not edible, potentially poisonous, something that could kill you, or something that could save your life. Learning the different nutritional values of certain plants is also going to be a good thing, because that way you can figure out what you should be, what plants you should be eating over other plants. Even though they could all be edible, some of them might be better for you. Now, guys, growing your own food, learning how to grow food, learning how to farm is going to be very important as well. That way you can grow your own crops. You know, you can grow tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, squash, potatoes, you know, anything that you can grow in your area is going to be a very valuable skill to know how to do. And it's going to take a lot of effort away from gathering food, you know, going out and scavenging for food. It can provide you with some substance that way. Obviously, fishing is going to be pretty easy. And guys, I'm going to say I would prefer fishing over hunting large game, because that's going to be my next, kind of like my transition into my next topic. And guys, large game, hunting large game, if it's a grid down, or if you don't have any electricity in your area, hunting large game is going to be an issue, and if you don't have enough people. Now, large game is going to provide a lot of food, and if it's you and a small family, or you and your family, and you hunt a deer, guys, a deer can put meat in the freezer on a normal, day for, many months, depending on the size of the deer. Now, I'm assuming that you don't have a family large enough to eat an entire deer in, the time frame that it's going to be before the meat would spoil without refrigeration or freezer. So keep in mind that hunting large animals is going to produce a lot of waste unless you have a way to cure it. And curing meat is going to be my next topic on things that you should learn how to do. Smoking, salting, whatever it takes to safely store your meat without it spoiling is going to be very important if you hunt large animals. You don't want your meat to spoil. It's going to produce a lot of waste. You don't want to make a lot of waste. And guys, another thing that producing a lot of waste, especially if you're going out and you're going to end up making a home out in the woods, like some people might, is that waste attracts predators. And predators are going to be one thing that you're going to want to minimize in your area, because they just produce another threat and stress. And eliminating threats and stress during a Great Depression time is going to be very important for your health. Not just physically, but mentally as well. And mental health during a Great Depression is going to be very important, because, guys, there was a lot of suicides during the Great Depression. So, guys, again, remember that mental health is very important for you. Just, you got to remember that. And, guys, going out and building your own home out in the woods, out in the wilderness, is going to be another transition topic. So, on this one, learning bushcrafting, learning how to make primitive tools and weapons is going to be extremely important. So, you should definitely get on to YouTube and look up TA Outdoors. It's a bushcrafting channel. They do a lot of big bushcrafting builds, and I believe they're out in the UK. But they do some really good videos. Not a whole lot of talking in it. It's a lot of visual, which is good. It's a good, they got a good format that they've got going on. And like I said, they do a lot of big builds with bushcrafting, and they use a lot of primitive tools building it too. There's some of their videos that they only use primitive tools to build these bushcrafting buildings. and some of their builds come out really, really nice. So that's again, that's TA Outdoors for big builds on bushcrafting. And another excellent channel, he does a lot more talking, and that's going to be Corporal's Corner. I love his channel because he does a lot of really good, down-to-earth, sensible builds. And guys, they're pretty short builds, they're pretty easy builds, they're pretty quick, usually one night kind of builds. They're shelters that, you know, bushcrafting shelters. And then he does a lot of cooking on it too, and you know, he just talks a lot about how he does it, what he's doing, what's involved into it. So Corporal's Corner is a very good for bushcrafting shelters for quick that are effective. And then again, TA Outdoors for really big bushcrafting builds. Now guys, these builds can take a little bit of time, but if you're going to go out in the wilderness and you're going to start your own, you know, a new life, you're going to build your own home, watch Corporal's Corner. Figure out some of his quick bushcrafting builds. Do one of those that's going to hold you over for a little bit. Not permanently, but it's going to hold you over. And then look at TA Outdoors. And then, you know, after you've done a quick bushcraft shelter build, you can start on a large build, you know, a bushcrafting large build for you that you can turn into a really great home. And so guys, after you've, you know, if you go out and you build a bushcrafting, you know, a bushcraft house or something like that, or even if you're staying in your own place, guys, I'm really going to recommend learning how to grow food again. I've said it already in this video, but I'm saying it again. Learn how to farm. Learn how to grow your own food. Guys, a lot of places in rural Russia, a lot of the homes out there, they have their own gardens, they have their own farms, they have their own greenhouses. Guys, these guys are pretty self-sufficient out in the countryside of Russia. And you can take a lesson from these guys because they make their own food a lot of the times. And I think that's one thing that we really need to be learning now is making our own food. Because guys, again, food is extremely important. We need it. And to finish up this video, I'm going to talk about, it's very quick, purifying water. That can be salt water or fresh water. Guys, salt water is going to be a little bit more difficult to purify because you're going to need to convert it over to fresh water. But converting salt water into fresh water gives you a byproduct of salt. Remember that. Converting seawater to fresh water gives you a byproduct of sea salt. And what can you do with salt? You can salt meat to cure it. Guys, purifying water is going to be extremely important because, remember, 3 days without water, bad situation. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, like and subscribe. Leave me down some comments, suggestions, and see y'all later.